The modeling industry has always operated on a fundamental rule: be a blank canvas. For decades, casting agencies demanded standardized beauty. Long hair, symmetrical features, an adaptable aesthetic that any designer could mold into their specific seasonal vision. To rebel against this blank canvas was considered career suicide. But what happens when a model refuses to blend in? What happens when an act of aesthetic rebellion doesn't destroy a career, but instead paralyzes the entire industry, forcing everyone to rewrite the rules of casting? Today on RUISHIFA, we explore the power of the radical physical signature. We are going to analyze the exact moment a single pair of scissors severed the traditional beauty standard and catapulted a Japanese model into absolute global dominance. Her name is Tao Okamoto.
Hi, my name is Tao. I'm from Japan. I'm 22. I'm always suffering.
We will decode the geometry of her iconic bowl cut, the biomechanics of her runway presence, and the historic moment when a designer was so mesmerized by her identity that he cloned her for the entire world to see. To understand the magnitude of Tao's impact, we have to travel back to 2009. The runway was dominated by cascading waves of hair, the remnants of the Victoria's Secret era bleeding heavily into high fashion. Models were ethereal, romantic, and predictable. Amidst this sea of uniformity, Tao Okamoto made a calculated, brutal decision. She cut her hair into a severe, geometric bowl cut. In the context of high fashion casting, this was a massive risk. A bowl cut is not soft. It is not romantic. It is an architectural helmet. It creates a harsh horizontal line across the forehead, casting dramatic shadows over the eyes and completely isolating the lower half of the face. But Tao possessed the exact bone structure to weaponize this cut. The sharp angles of her jawline and the extreme elevation of her cheekbones completely absorbed the severity of the hair. Suddenly, she was no longer a blank canvas. She became a walking graphic design. The haircut acted as a frame, drawing absolute focus to her piercing clinical gaze. She transformed her face from a commercial asset into a piece of avant-garde architecture. The industry's reaction was not immediate acceptance. It was absolute shock. But true visionaries recognize disruption when they see it. Enter designer Phillip Lim. During the casting process for his fall/winter 2009 runway show in New York, Lim encountered Tao. He was not just impressed by her walk, he was entirely consumed by her aesthetic. Her severe haircut perfectly embodied the modern, sharp, and slightly androgynous energy of his upcoming collection. What happened next is etched in fashion history as one of the most radical styling decisions ever made on a global runway. Phillip Lim did not just cast Tao to walk the show, he made her the absolute blueprint. He commissioned 51 identical, sharp black bowl cut wigs. Every single model who stepped onto that runway, regardless of their ethnicity, their usual style, or their supermodel status, was transformed into an imitation of Tao Okamoto. It was a surreal, hypnotic army of clones marching to the beat of a single girl's aesthetic. She was no longer just wearing the clothes. She had become the very identity of the brand. Furthermore, Tao's aesthetic choice was a direct and lethal strike against the prevailing stereotypes of Asian models in Western media. For years prior, Asian models were often cast to fulfill a very specific, exoticized fantasy, usually involving long, silky black hair and an almost submissive, delicate presence. By severing her hair into an aggressive, brutalist bowl cut, Tao destroyed that stereotype overnight. She presented a new archetype, the Asian avant-garde powerhouse. She was not there to be a delicate flower. She was there to be a sharp, imposing structural pillar. This visual rebellion resonated deeply with iconic houses like Ralph Lauren, Chanel, and Alexander Wang, who immediately recognized the supreme power of a woman who commands a room through sheer, unapologetic geometry. But carrying a look that bold requires a specific, highly developed physical intelligence. You cannot wear a severe geometric haircut and walk with a soft, romantic bounce. The visual weight of the bowl cut demanded a complete change in posture. Tao understood this biomechanical requirement perfectly. When you analyze her runway footage from that era, her walk is impeccably controlled. Her neck is elongated, holding the structural helmet of her hair with a regal, almost militant stiffness. Her shoulders are locked back, and her stride is deliberate and piercing. She walks with a cold, untouchable confidence. She does not look left or right. Her gaze cuts straight through the flashing cameras. The haircut removed the distraction of flowing hair, meaning every micro-movement of her shoulders and every shift of her hips was hyper-visible to the audience. She had to master the art of absolute structural rigidity. She became a kinetic sculpture, proving that true style is not just about the clothes you wear, but the physical geometry you project into the space around you. The Tao cut sent a massive shockwave through the elite agencies of Paris, Milan, and New York. It fundamentally altered the casting paradigm of the 21st century. Casting directors realized that the era of the blank canvas was dying. The new luxury market craved distinct, unmistakable identities. Tao proved that a radical, highly specific physiognomic detail could be your greatest asset. It forces designers to adapt to you, rather than you adapting to them. She paved the way for an entire generation of models who use extreme haircuts, tattoos, or unconventional features to carve out their own specific niches in a saturated market. Tao's aesthetic power was so undeniable that it eventually shattered the boundaries of fashion entirely, catapulting her into Hollywood blockbusters. But her origin will always be tied to that single, sharp, horizontal line across her forehead. She is the ultimate proof that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is look like everybody else. Tao Okamoto weaponized a radical physical alteration, using a pair of scissors to carve her name into fashion history. She was the absolute, immovable disruption. But what if you don't use scissors? What if you conquer the industry not by changing your permanent physical canvas, but by mastering the invisible art of fluid adaptability? If Tao is the radical, rigid aesthetic, who is the chameleon? To understand how a model can hack both the commercial streets of New York and the avant-garde runways of Europe using only microscopic facial control, you must watch our deep dive on Satoshi Toda. Click the video on screen to decode the master of tension. Tell me in the comments, do you respect the bold, permanent disruption of Tao or the fluid adaptability of Satoshi? Subscribe to RUISHIFA, sharpen your edges, and I will see you in the next analysis.